Disney is having its own problems. They're finally releasing the latest adaptation of Snow White, but they're scaling back the Hollywood premiere of the film. Kinsey, why is that?
Because Rachel Zegler is a PR nightmare.
She's a PR nightmare. I don't know how anyone would hire her.
No one on the right side of America can stand the star of this movie.
But you don't seemingly like your own character, so she comes off as an insufferable, whiny brat.
I know this point has been made, but this truly is the worst casting maybe in the history of the film industry.
Okay, there's something wrong with this person.
So now, as the movie comes out, the two biggest stars in this movie can't stand each other to the point where they can't be in the same room, which forced Disney, in their infinite wisdom, to cut back on doing a formal premiere.
But these guys at Disney, they're not that bright, they're not that smart, and we see that because they can't come up with any new IP. Why not write some new movies? You guys sit around, you have billions of dollars. They keep going back and rewriting the classics.
This is someone who is as entitled as, I don't need your business.
And if you disagree with this sentiment, I don't need your business. Thanks.
You know what? Maybe Disney does. Maybe you're a tool, you're a pawn in this film. You didn't write it. You didn't direct it. You have nothing to do with the creation of Snow White. Right. You should shut up and do the job.
Now, for Disney, as you probably remember, all of this publicity, the Zegler interviews, the Daily Mail leak, caused a lot of unexpected, for them anyway, pre-production problems. People weren't supposed to see and understand just how unwatchable the new Snow White was going to be. It was supposed to be, kind of a surprise, but now there was no hiding it.
The movie that nobody wanted to see, and I mean that seriously, nobody wants to see this movie. Ticket pre-sales are nowhere near what Disney was hoping for. Let's just say if you wanted to buy tickets for the 9 p.m. show tonight, wherever you are in America, you'd be just fine.
Now, one thing that is already universally known at this point by the general public is the fact that Disney is in full-on damage control mode.
The reason we had Rachel Zegler on the docket is she's an asshole.
Rachel Zegler is extraordinarily woke, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
And now she's trying to reinvent herself because there's been so much blowback. And you can only imagine the studio calls about this woman behind the scene. Like, oh my God, we're $242 million in, and our lead actress hates our film, our actors, our storyline.
But I think the movie bombed because it's bad. Those CGI little people.
This is truly, like, she has to go. I'm sorry, Disney. She has to go.
Oh, man.
Hello, Disney. You're going to have to redo your film again because this woman is a pig and you fired Gina Carano for far less than this nonsense.
You guys, Disney's new live-action remake of Snow White debuted this weekend, and it's an even bigger dud than anticipated.
I think it's fair to say that no one can stand the star of this movie.
Given all the behind-the-scenes mayhem, I expected a Frankenstein's monster where scenes would be stitched together. I think a lot of these live-action updates are really hard to watch. They've really done so much stepping on rakes over the last few months with this project where the box office is just not going to recover.
The latest victim of really bad ideas is finally here. The magical Disney DEI woke equity version of the 1937 classic Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. But because the word dwarves is now apparently controversial, Disney took that part out of the movie altogether. And now the movie is just called Snow White, which would be like Disney taking lions out of Lion King or mermaids out of The Little Mermaid.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her.
Oh my God.
And I can only hope.
What does that mean?
That despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Every Disney movie is about a woman waiting for a man, okay? Sleeping Beauty, she is comatose until a man comes to kiss her and wake her up. Rapunzel, she's up in a tower, taking biotin, hair vitamins, waiting for a man. This is what these women are
Cinderella.
doing. Is it the best? Yes, Cinderella. Is this the best message to send to young girls? No, but you don't have to rewrite and rework the classics. Come up with something new, you guys.
Rachel is literally the star of a Disney movie, and she acts like she's some sort of victim, and that's the sort of mentality mentality that is just poisoning people's minds. Like, she acts like her life is so bad.
I truly do believe that there's something wrong with her. She's disturbed, she's unhappy, and she thinks it's about feminism and the patriarchy and about abortion. But the reality is she's just not stable. Like the majority of people in Hollywood, they're just not stable human beings.
She told Variety that I'm only responsible for what I feel, and then I'm responsible for how I act upon it, which makes no sense at all.
Sweetie, you're being paid $25 million and you're on TV saying your bosses suck. So Rachel Zegler, maybe keep your mouth shut.
Disney, despite losing over $1 billion on their last 4 movies, as they continue to shove woke politics into people's faces who just want to go to the movie, laugh, cry, and go home. Look, people don't want to be lectured when they're watching a movie, and they certainly don't want to be told that they're bad people. But that's what Disney continues to do. This movie's cost them $200 million and counting. And instead of America being excited to take their families, I've got kids, we'd normally be excited to go see the remake of Bashful, Doc, Dopey, Grumpy, Happy, Sleepy, and Sneezy. Disney is looking at another woke flop with magical creatures instead of dwarves in a movie about 7 dwarves.
Accusing Disney of inserting unnecessary feminism into classic fairy tales.
You should want to be the prince. You should want to go out and fight the bad guys with a sword.
And not only are the dwarves gone in the remake, they've been replaced by what Disney is now calling magical creatures. Snow White and the 7 magical creatures. Disney wouldn't even cast people with actual dwarfism to play the roles of the 7 dwarves. And the new magical creatures are also completely computer generated.
I say, if I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed on.
Disney's newest live-action remake of Snow White was meant to be the crown jewel in their ongoing parade of rebooted classics. Yet here we are, neck deep in a dizzying swirl of controversies, rumors, and political drama that's all been brewing long before anyone even got a whiff of popcorn at the premiere. The moment production photos leaked, showing a ragtag group of bandits rather than the iconic 7 dwarfs, the internet did what it does best: explode. Headlines shrieked accusations of woke madness. Social media boiled over with cries of boycott, and everyone from die-hard Disney fans to political pundits started flinging opinions like enchanted arrows in a medieval battlefield.
We've already covered how Rachel Zegler is a terrible choice for Snow White. Nothing about her says Snow White, and that's even leaving aside the fact that she openly detests the story, as she's said many times during this disastrous PR campaign. But Gal Gadot, who plays the Queen, the first problem is that she's the evil queen. The evil queen is supposed to be envious of Snow White's beauty, and that is just not believable. It is just not, even in a movie with magical mirrors and dwarves and all that, in a fairy tale, that strains my ability to suspend disbelief. I cannot buy that Gal Gadot is angry that she's not as beautiful as Rachel Zegler. I cannot buy that.
Now, insiders like Will from Gloucester, allegedly part of the film's crew during 2022, have stepped forward with eyebrow-raising clarifications that threaten to change the entire conversation. According to Will, the viral images that fueled so much of the outrage, those that suggested the classic dwarfs were replaced by a politically correct group of multi-ethnic average-height characters, were nothing more than photos of additional roles known on set as the bandits, standing in for newly created forest mischief makers, who guide, challenge, and occasionally torment Snow White on her journey. Meanwhile, Disney had always planned for the beloved dwarfs to appear in the film, only now reimagined through a blend of CGI and motion capture.
One actor with dwarfism saying, quote, "There really is nothing wrong casting someone with dwarfism as a dwarf as long as we are treated equally and with respect. We're usually more than happy to take on any acting roles that are suitable for us. Plus, it's an opportunity for young children to see someone with dwarfism, which they may never see before." Disney claims that they consulted the dwarfism community and decided that magical creatures was the way to go instead of casting people with actual dwarfism, which got a lot of people upset. And little people were actually protesting outside the very muted premiere of Snow White.
But the internet rarely waits for the official story. And soon enough, fan fury escalated into a raging storm of half-truths and heated arguments, not helped by the actor Peter Dinklage's public comments on the matter. Dinklage, ever the respected voice in the dwarfism community, didn't mince words when he questioned whether Disney was inadvertently perpetuating stereotypes. Some supporters hailed him as a hero for bringing these concerns to light, while others accused him of calling the shots and effectively forcing Disney's hand. But Will from Gloucester contests that none of this was a backpedaling measure by the studio. Apparently, Disney had been liaising with advocacy organizations like Little People of America from the get-go, hoping to skirt controversy by carefully distinguishing magical dwarfs from real-life individuals with dwarfism. No small feat, pun intended, when the public is hunting for drama. Enter the film's leading lady, Rachel Zegler, who's been hailed by some as a vocal champion of modern Disney princess values, but blasted by others as an ungrateful, outspoken rebel who disdains the 1937 classic. Rumor has it, Zegler raised eyebrows when she openly joked that the original version of Snow White was weird and antiquated, claiming her new incarnation would be more about leadership than waiting passively for Prince Charming.
I don't really care what happens with this movie. I really hope her career is pretty much over. I'd be thrilled to see that. I can't imagine. I mean, Christian, you tell me. But is she not seen as box office poison now because of all of her antics?
You know, it's kind of a mixed track record. She's still fairly young. Her West Side Story debut was not a hit, and that was a Spielberg movie, so that was kind of a surprise. But if you're a studio, if you're a director, if you're a casting director, you've got to think twice or three times before hiring her. Listen, she's talented, she's attractive, she's got skill, but there are a lot of actresses in Hollywood who bring all that to the table and are not going to absolutely sabotage your work.
No big deal, you might think, but then fans found her tweets about politics, including some aimed at Donald Trump, and a large vocal subset of the internet lost its collective mind. Suddenly, everyone was labeling Zegler the face of woke white, as the film garnered yet another wave of enraged retorts, this time from those who saw the production as a left-leaning propaganda piece.
Okay, she writes, I find myself speechless in the midst of this. Another 4 years of hatred, leaning us towards a world I do not want to live in, leaning us towards a world that will be hard to raise my daughter in. P.S. She has no daughter. She has no children at all. Leading us towards a world that will force her, who's her, your daughter who doesn't exist, okay, to have a baby she doesn't want.
Meanwhile, official film synopses promised a kinder, more resilient Snow White, determined to rescue a once thriving kingdom from the powder-hungry evil queen, played by Gal Gadot, who ironically was previously revered as the strong, heroic Wonder Woman. Instead of Prince Charming, audiences would meet a new character, played by Andrew Burnap, more akin to a dashing Robin Hood figure than the classic smitten suitor with a single kiss up his sleeve. In place of the love at first sight storyline, this adaptation purportedly ups the ante on female empowerment and grassroots revolutions, a concept that, on paper, might have been a dream come true for a modern audience. But controversies, online hysteria, and non-stop Twitter spats can sour even the sweetest of fairy tale potions. Critics who watched early previews spoke of the new songs, some allegedly reminiscent of folksy anthems that might have come from Woody Guthrie or a musical retelling of Les Miserables, and pined for the magical simplicity of timeless bops like Hi-Ho and Whistle While You Work. Even the dwarf's purported design, according to leaks, turned heads for all the wrong reasons. Apparently, Disney tried to balance nostalgia and innovation by crafting hyper-realistic, cartoonish yet lifelike creatures that inadvertently found themselves in an uncanny valley, fueling audience discomfort rather than delight. The question on everyone's lips, if the hand-drawn dwarfs from 1937 are so iconic, why not simply recreate them as they were, or else fully break free and do something entirely fresh? This half step in each direction only sparked further confusion, with some test audience members and critics lamenting that the production design looked disjointed. Then came the swirl of contradictory critical buzz. Variety reported unbelievably positive early reactions, testimonials that invoked phrases like one of Disney's best live-action remakes and a magical triumph. Yet just as quickly, Letterboxd and other fan-driven sites teamed with zero-star reviews months before the release, suggesting either a coordinated smear campaign or a powerful wave of disappointed fans who had already seen enough from trailers and leaked snippets to pass preemptive judgment. That's where the speculation intensifies. Was this a genuine grassroots revolt from people who disliked what they saw, or a political weaponization of internet review platforms, proving once more that modern discourse thrives on extremes? One side yells, "Go woke," go broke, while the other side insists that modernizing fairy tales is the only way forward. Adding another layer to the drama is the widely circulated rumor that the script underwent significant rewrites. Some say to accommodate shifting cultural expectations, others claim it was done to salvage a rocky production that struggled to define its tone. If you believe the scuttlebutt, Snow White's story flirted with so many potential thematic directions: rebellion, sisterhood, social commentary, even comedic romance, that the final cut came out somewhat muddled. Skeptics asked why Disney is so fixated on redoing its Golden Age classics at all. Was it truly about representation and empowerment? Or was it merely a reliable box office strategy they'd milk until audiences got tired of these glossy retreads? Perhaps both can be true simultaneously, but the final product, from what inside sources say, is a film stuck somewhere between whimsical fairy tale and gritty revolution story, never fully delivering on either. Still, not all hope is lost. A handful of viewers who caught sneaks claim Rachel Zegler, despite the swirl of controversy around her social media persona, is a luminous presence on screen, pouring heart and youthful verve into a role that demanded far more agency than the 1937 damsel in distress. Word has it she belts the classic tunes with pure Broadway flair, and when all is said and done, she might just anchor the film enough to keep it afloat, with family audiences seeking a fresh face for an old tale. Meanwhile, Gal Gadot's performance as the villainous queen, a haughty, cold-blooded aristocrat who hoards the kingdom's resources in a twisted capitalist monarchy, has earned praise for injecting both glamour and malice into the story. Even so, that might not be enough to satisfy critics who feel the rewrites and haphazard blending of old and new songs come across as forced, or that the dwarf's jarring CGI presence disrupts the magic more than it enhances it. Thus, the film finds itself in a bizarre tug-of-war between actual screen quality and the swirling vortex of political commentary that has latched onto it, from right-wing media outlets brandishing woke white as an example of Hollywood's supposed moral downfall, to left-leaning voices praising Disney for trying to respect cultural differences and avoid perpetuating harmful stereotypes. The big question: will average moviegoers show up in droves, intrigued by the controversy, or stay away in protest? Early screenings for children showed mixed results. Some kids apparently found it acceptable, but not earth-shattering, which for a Disney film intended to delight the young at heart might spell trouble. Others maintain that any film saddled with this much baggage from critics and internet rumor mills is destined to face an uphill climb no matter its actual quality. When you peel back the politics and drama, the story might be quite simple. It's Snow White, reimagined for a generation that demands fierce female characters, more inclusive casting, and a narrative that underscores social justice themes. Whether that resonates with audiences or sends them fleeing remains to be seen. And that, dear viewer, is where this entire spectacle stands as of now. Swirling questions of whether the uproar is fair or if we've all fallen prey to internet mob mentality. And whether poor Rachel Zegler, with her sassy interviews and Trump tweets, has become a scapegoat. The supposed insider info from Will and Gloucester reveals how one snap of on-set bandits ballooned into an international fiasco, fueling the myth that Disney had thrown out Doc, Grumpy, and the rest of the iconic dwarfs in a bid to placate an imagined army of outraged activists. Instead, it seems the truth involves a more delicate attempt to differentiate fantasy dwarfs from real-life little people, and perhaps shine a spotlight on Snow White's growth into a confident, empathetic leader. But in a media environment that thrives on conflict and snappy headlines, nuance can get lost faster than Snow White in the darkest corner of the forest. So where does that leave us? Maybe the final verdict can only be delivered once the film actually arrives in theaters. Does it recapture the sense of wonder that made Walt Disney's original and untouchable cinematic triumph? Or is it a self-conscious, over-engineered production trying too hard to please everyone and ending up pleasing no one? Will curious families, lured by the Disney brand, give it a chance? Or will a swirl of political noise keep them away, chanting, "Go woke, go broke," while streaming the 1937 classic at home instead? At this point, dear viewers, you might be the jury. Will you line up at the box office, eager to see for yourself whether the new take on Snow White offers a fresh perspective on a timeless story, or will you join the chorus of naysayers who've seen the memes, read the tweets, and already made up their minds that this fairy tale belongs in the dustbin of cinematic history? Before you let the critics, trolls, or even the venerated trade magazines sway you, remember that only you can decide if this reimagined tale is for you. If you're intrigued by the promise of modern messages in a vintage shell, maybe it's worth the price of admission. If you find the very idea sacrilegious, Disney likely won't change your mind. Whatever you choose, we want to hear from you. Do you think Disney ruined an all-time classic with needless politics and controversial casting choices? Or are you cheering for a bold new Snow White who fights for her kingdom and its disenfranchised citizens instead of simply whistling while she waits for romance? Let us know in the comments, because this debate is far from settled, and your voice could tip the scales in one direction or another. And of course, if you've enjoyed this whirlwind tour through the rumors, revelations, and raging fan battles, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe for more scandalous scoops and insider updates, and be sure to ring that notification bell so you won't miss a single moment of Hollywood hullabaloo. We'll be back soon with more deep dives into Tinseltown's most talked about dramas. Because, as we've all learned, when it comes to reimagining beloved fairy tales, nothing is ever quite as black and white or Snow White as it seems.